Middle East, who has thought that it may impact a country like in Southeast Asia. But that is the reality in terms of our global supply chain. It started with the disruption in terms of the supply of the fuel. But now, after 2 months or 3 months of the crisis, we can fairly say that the impact is beyond the fuel. In terms of when I was being interviewed by Bloomberg and maybe Channel News Asia, we have to put the perspective and the understanding the crisis is actually may take longer for it to settle. Number one, we do not know how America will actually stop the war. But number two, whatever the damage that has been done, especially to the infrastructure of oil, the refinery, may take years for it to be fully recovered. And that's why, in terms of the impact for this year, as the crisis prolongs, you can start feel the pain or the impact of the inflation as we move months to months. Because number one, the fuel itself is still very volatile in terms of the price. Number two, for our country, at least we prove we are more resilient than some other nations. So far we don't face the disruption at the petrol stations at large, but at the same time, this is something that we have to manage dynamically, because in order for us to move from relying on the Middle East supply, we have to look at the options from different continents and whatnot. So the process itself requires not just about finding the fuel, but also to tune in our refinery in Malaysia that all this while rely on the Middle East crude. So that's why for us to announce from time to time, at the moment we say, inshallah, our supply in terms of fuel will be steady up until end of June. But definitely, by mid of this month, then the government, I think maybe Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri will be announcing our next supply that we can secure, so that it gives confidence to the market and the commitment for us, not for the economic activities to stop. But looking on the other angle, when we talk about fuel, it is also the question that from the economic perspective, especially from Kementerian Ekonomi, when we learn about economy, things are quite structured. Whatever we do is already some routines. And number two, when we talk about economy, is the activities within the constraints. We have to balance either securing the supply, managing the inflation, managing our fiscal, because there are always constraints, and that's why economy has to find ways to find the best scenario for us. So when things are moving from in terms of what happened starting from the crisis, on the fuel itself, the main issue we need to address is to secure the supply. How do we secure the supply? You find the supply. Number two, how can we prolong our supply? So in terms of diesel, as Lukman tried to explain, B50 means that the composition between biodiesel and diesel. And I'm not sure, I just asked Lukman, and he admitted to me before we came inside the hall, he only realized at our petrol station, we have been using B10. Do you guys realize that?
Yes.
Yes. So some UM students actually realize, better than you lah. And so B10, actually at our pump station, at the moment, we are consuming B10 for our diesel. In that sense, actually already have biodiesel component at our pump station. So when we talk about the crisis, definitely through the MTEN, the weekly meeting that we have been calling to really understand all the situations and trying to find ways how to intervene in addressing these issues. And yet we're talking about the demand yet, we are talking about the supply. So one, definitely we are asking Petronas to keep searching for the options. Where can we get supply beyond Middle East? But number two, we also look in a way, how can we prolong our diesel supply by finding suitable replacement? So that's how it started. So when we got Kementerian Komoditi, Perdagangan and Komoditi to come and actually telling us in terms of the current situation, that's where from our planning all this while in terms of biodiesel, we have the aspiration to upgrade our facility, for example, on the biodiesel to B30 by 2030. That is the aspiration that we put. That is in terms of our capacity, in terms of ensuring the biodiesel can push up to B30. But even that is not enough, because when we talk about the supply chain, it has separate components. The bottleneck that we are facing at the moment is the blending facility. We talk about the mangkok tadi, but where can we mix that between biodiesel and diesel? This is where we call blending facility. But before coming from blending facility, we need to make biodiesel. The component that come from palm oil, other countries, example, Brazil may rely on jagung, may rely on soya. So for our country, biodiesel comes from palm oil. This facility of biodiesel somehow is actually over capacity. Why? Because back then, I was told from the industry there was a demand, especially from the European countries, to get this kind of biodiesel. But then because of all these like campaign against palm oil and whatnot, somehow we have that capacity, yet we don't really fully realize that capacity. So in terms of biodiesel, creating the biodiesel, yes, we have access. So that's why when we talk about the how do we approach this issue, the bottleneck, that's why I said when we think about economy, it's all about the constraints. The bottleneck now is at the mixing, blending facility. Mangkok tadi tak cukup besar. So when we discover, when we talk from the industry, I call not just from the KPK. In fact, we went to the facility like KVDT, Klang Valley Distribution Terminal, whereby to look if this is our bottleneck, how do we overcome within a very short period of time? They said, yes, I can upgrade the facility, give me 2 years and some funding. But definitely funding is another issue that we have to address through our budgeting process. But looking at that possibility, we look in terms of how can we improve in terms operational side, in terms of managing all these delivery, managing in terms of the mixing and whatnot. That's where we get the commitment, yes, we can do it from B10 to B12 within 1 month, just allowing us some time to tweaking in terms of the formula. You do not need to change the bowl, but we change in terms of the flow rate of putting the biodiesel. We change in terms of how long will it take to mix the recipe and whatnot. So we are talking very technical in that sense, but in terms of approaching this crisis, we have to prepare for the long term. I mean, in terms of the impact. So it's all about to prolong the resilience for our supply in terms of diesel. So government, like about a month ago, decided, yes, we should look into this option of prolonging our diesel supply. One, by looking at the options outside Middle East. We talk to different countries, different regions. And number two, we try to prolong by putting the component of biodiesel inside our diesel supply. So this is at least managing the supply constraint. But definitely, the issue now is not just about the supply. I think the creeping out in terms of inside, in terms of the cost of doing the business, in terms of our cost of living, because somehow the buffer of what we have in the our capacity now in terms of inventories and whatnot will start be affecting as the crisis prolong. So I think that's good for the first round. Thank you very much.
Alright, thank you so much, YB. So YB has talked about the importance of this mixture dalam mangkuk to make sure that it lasts long. So it's not just apa in the next 6 months to 12 months, it's also about the next 5 years. How are we going to mix our diesel, how are the companies going to use transports and all that. So moving on to the next question for Dr. Rifki. You teach students who are asking about career paths. Semua nak kerja, semua nak kerja apa. So Doctor, from your POV, is there a gap between what is taught in universities across Malaysia and also what the energy industry actually requires from Malaysians?
I think that is a very important question, not just preparing the manpower supply, but whether it match or not match to the industry. So before I speak on that, I think the first thing first is the link up between the industry and university in Malaysia is not as strong as it should be, because if I compare to my experience in Japan, in UK, the industry and the university are so close. They try to do almost anything that they do together, they do together. Which is I try to, this is something that I try to promote in Malaysia actually. And in that way, even the module that we prepared or the program that we prepared is not strictly related to the future market and what's going on. But when they have the relation between the industry and the university, it involves the student with the industry problems. So I think that is a good way that we want to see in Malaysia more. And yes, I think to make sure that the student manpower are aligned with the industry is that we need to make sure the student also need to be able to be close and learn the issue currently, because even in the industry itself, they will promote their own industry. Okay, for example, we have biodiesel. Of course, we're going to promote biodiesel. And for example, we have other industry like electric, petrol, and so on. But the student need to make sure or learn what is actually the future, so that they can match the rising industry rather than the industry that is going down. So that's the case, and maybe you can engage, the student can engage with the lecturers who are involved in this very industry, and these lecturers or the experts can advise more or give unbiased ideas on what is going to be at least from his creation in 5 years or 10 years. That's my point of view.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. So, YB, the World Bank projected that energy prices are going to surge by 24% globally this year. Malaysia responded quickly. B12 was announced in April, and if I'm not mistaken, in June also B15 is going to roll out slowly. So then more than 70% of blending ports have been assessed as ready. A biofuel committee also has been established, but the real question underneath all of that is, how prepared are we as a nation? What are the preparation steps that we have taken to face this energy disruption and also the future energy disruptions from next and forthcoming conflicts?
Thank you, Roman. When we talk about energy, at least for Malaysia, we are better prepared since we have a policy that we call NETA, National Energy Transition Roadmap, which was rolled out by the previous minister, laying down areas that we can or that we should be targeting in order for us to move towards net zero by 2050. So, as a country, the aspiration, the plan, the mission and whatnot are already being put in place. So when I came in late last year, my commitment when taking over this role, I said to 2026, let's focus on execution, let's focus on delivery. Because Malaysia, really, you have a good plan, but execution koyak. Bila nak buat implementation, selalu hangat-hangat tak ayam. Then it is a challenge that we are facing from time to time. So, looking back or looking at the what we are facing in terms of energy crisis, I know there is a need for us to mitigate in terms of the short-term impact. But we should remain focused for the long-term trajectory as well, for us to be able to overcome this kind of crisis that will happen again and again. Because when we talk about biodiesel example, what is actually the advantage? It's actually more secure because it's being produced domestically. When we talk about renewable energy solar, again, it is being produced domestically. When we talk about fuel, fossil fuel, it is actually exposed to the interaction of global situation, the geopolitics. So that's why if we are talking about are we ready to face this kind of challenge of energy crisis, partly we have the plan, but now how to really implement it. So that's why when we talk about in the context of biodiesel just now, we are talking how to increase, even in terms of the numbers only from 10% up to 15%. But still, within few months, at least to roll out within 1 month, by 1st June, inshallah, there will be increase in terms of our biodiesel component in our petrol stations. But number two, in terms of the raising, is also quite significant from 500,000 in terms of million metric tons from the sawit, becoming 800,000. So it's still meaningful within that short period of time. But looking forward, managing this short-term impact is actually more tricky. Because definitely, as a government, we have to ensure the impact in terms of inflation is manageable. Government decide to maintain in terms of the pricing of RON 95, but at the same time, we have to be realistic. That's why we have to manage in terms of the quantity that being given to the for the public to use from 300 to 200 liters. But is it enough? Is it sustainable? If you heard the comment from all this input, definitely we need to be more targeted. In fact, this is why, from our perspective, from Ministry of Economy, we are saying we should be more targeted in terms of rolling out the subsidy to the masses. Why should we give everyone the same rate? At least the so-called the T1 or T5 should be, should they deserve to receive this kind of subsidy support? So this is where, along the process, you need to manage in terms of how to roll it out, in terms of system. By the time you want to start explain in terms of the communication, to explain to the public and whatnot. And number two, when we talk about when you give such good price to maintain the inflation to at the some minimal impact. I think from February to March there is only showing from 1.4% to 1.7% in terms of the inflation increase. But when you maintain such price, even for the diesel segment, definitely leakages is another issue that we need to address. So that's why how for the government to manage it is all about the enforcement, I know when you talk about it, so long there is a gap between of the price, I mean, you are doing the business, so long there is a price gap, people will try to take the advantage because the margin is good. In fact, for example, when we maintain the diesel subsidy for the fishermen, the challenge is actually to make sure they actually use that to catch the fish rather than go to the sea and sell to the different fishermen out there, because it is happening. But in terms of managing it, how do we avoid this from to happen? I think the formula must also be changing. Instead of giving at the input level, it has to be also look from the output. I mean, if you bring back the fish, then you deserve that quota. But if we just giving out such help or assistance, but you cannot guarantee is actually the supply coming back to the country, then this is where in terms of the implementation, in terms of the operational of our policy must also be up to date to avoid all these disadvantages to our policy. So looking at that situation, at least we still have a room to support the price for the public, to balance out with the inflation pressure. But at the same time, I think if you look in terms of what being reported for our subsidy costs, when the crisis happened, for the first month, it went up to 7 billion, whereby we usually spend about 700 million per month, now suddenly becoming 7 billion, 10 times more than what we projected for this year. This is where government has to find the sweet point, how to actually contain this burden towards government coffer, but at the same time to manage the impact being faced by our citizens. Thank you.
YB, just to follow up on that, like since Malaysia is the second largest producer of palm oil, is there a version of this story where Malaysia becomes a global biodiesel exporter, or rather than just a domestic consumer? For example, like Taiwan, TSMC, Samsung is Korea. Is there a version of this whole story yang kelapa sawit may be what helps Malaysia become a developed nation?
In terms of our production for palm oil, CPO, we produce about 20 million tons per year. And definitely, when we talk about palm oil, it's not just biodiesel. I think the straight example, minyak masak that is coming from palm oil. But also palm oil does produce some high-end products, especially in terms of our hygiene products, in terms of cosmetic and whatnot. So in that sense, the how palm oil is being benefiting our industry is actually across the spectrum. At the moment, when we talk about biodiesel per se, definitely the issue or the debate would be like, if we take everything for biodiesel, what will happen to other products in the market? So that's why I think to find the balance, what we need to use for us from the palm oil for what kind of products. I think the market will tell us which one that more benefiting the industry. At the moment, palm oil is also, in terms of the commodity price, is also going up trend, but they also have a challenge for the exporting because cost is also going up because of the transportation cost, the fuel for the shipping and whatnot. So in that sense, when we talk about biodiesel initiative, by comparing to different countries, when we talk about government decision to move from B10 to B12 and B15, I actually got the idea from Brazil, because when we went through from different industries, we were talking about feedstock for our chickens and all these makanan ternakan. There was a a strong indicator that Brazil will start limiting their export of this food for the because soya and corns are being diverted into their biodiesel use for their country. So at the moment, suddenly biodiesel becomes the so-called security for energy for each nation. So to think beyond that, I think in terms of cost-wise, it still be more cost-effective for domestic consumption. But at the same time, I think the limitation of our production, definitely Indonesia has more in terms of CPO. But then we never know if the European countries change their policy to be more receptive on our palm oil products. But I think in terms of how to capitalize our strength for that commodity is beyond biodiesel. I think because when we talk about exporting, we should go for higher end products out of these palm oil opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Ivy. Moving on to Dr. Rifki. So, students in this room, they are going to be entering the workforce in the next 3 years, and they're going to be staying there for the next 40 years. So, many are already thinking about EVs, hydrogen, maybe nuclear technology, but where does biodiesel sit in that overarching narrative? Is it genuinely a long-term technology, or is it just a bridge or a buffer to get us somewhere?
Okay, in terms of biodiesel, I think biodiesel is suitable not to just replace diesel. It should be more like a sponge for the local consumption. For me, what does sponge mean? For example, when we have crisis like this is our chance, especially in Malaysia, because we have palm oil. We can use this palm oil, convert into our fuel. This is our advantage compared to other countries. And what I can say about biodiesel, our biodiesel, we have a lot of biodiesel types in the world. For example, like what you mentioned, like in Brazil, we have soya, we have canola, sunflower, and all this biodiesel is different. And if we put into the rank all of this biodiesel, unfortunately, our palm oil biodiesel from palm is the second highest in terms of what we call a problem in terms of a post type. But the highest is coconut oil. But coconut oil is rarely being used for biodiesel. But I think, fortunately, Malaysia is a very suitable country to use the biodiesel because we have a very hot country, which is this issue of biodiesel is considered not an issue because coal type as a biodiesel fuel only happen on a coal country. So for Malaysia, it's a very suitable place. Malaysia, Indonesia, and climate country is a very suitable country where we can really use the palm oil-based biodiesel. And actually, how can I say is that as a part of researcher that we did study on, as you mentioned, we gonna go, or the government gonna look into the feasibility study into the P15. Actually, we already gone through into the P20 and P30, just to make sure that the government agency, for example, the most important agency is the NTOB, the one who look into all the biodiesel things, just to give them the picture whether it is feasible or not feasible. Okay, in terms of technical, the vehicle biodiesel, I can say we have done up to B30, which is not a problem. And the good thing about biodiesel that maybe not many being properly promoted is that it does help our emission, or it does help our climate in two ways. The first is what we introduce the net carbon, which is rather than we take the crude oil and turn into diesel and burn and straight away produce the carbon dioxide. So we have the palm plantation where the tree is actually need carbon dioxide to grow the tree. So it's actually sucking all the carbon dioxide that harm the climate, and then it produces the fuel, which is very, very interesting in terms of going to a better climate. Of course, it's not that efficient, but still it does help us to help the climate. And the second one, not just by having the tree absorbing all the carbon dioxide, but also the engine, when we use biodiesel, it does really help making the exhaust gas much better. In terms of the thing that one of the things that we are worried with diesel compared to petrol, normal petrol, is that it has like a particulate matter, in simple terms that we can say like a very small dust. The smaller the dust, it can directly go into your blood directly. It doesn't need to go into inhale, it can directly go to your blood from the skin if the particle is so small. So it's a very dangerous thing. But with biodiesel, it does reduce the particulate matter, the CO, and also some cases the NOx. But unfortunately, if we have introduced NOx is one of the toxic gas. One actually for palm oil is a bit higher, but it's not that significant. But if we really want to make sure the industry prepare for our biodiesel, for example, we say at one time when we want to run a very, very high biodiesel, for example, B50, to make sure that the engine really produces a clean exhaust, we can make sure the industry tune the engine properly to make sure the emission is going to be completely much better compared to the normal diesel. So you can say that in terms of environment, it is a very, very good in terms of using biodiesel rather than normal diesel. But I think if we keep pushing the biodiesel, one of the things that the infrastructure preparing, the blending and so on, one of the issue I believe is that maybe what you already mentioned is that one of the fears that we can see, a lot of fear, for example, focusing biodiesel rather than the cosmetic, the cooking oil and so on, is that maybe our supply of rubber also might go down because people see that palm plantation is going to be giving them much better income rather than the rubber. So this is something I believe YB University need to look into it very detail because a wrong tune, wrong trade-off might introduce something else, which is one of the concerns I got from the LGM. So, but I believe we need to make sure that the biodiesel is just enough for the buffer, but if we think the fuel is going to be a different story. And I think for you guys, in terms of future trend, biodiesel, and I think palm oil is a very good area because we can say that it's not just the engine side, we have also a lot of new products we can invent. And we want a lot of new ideas that we want you guys to invent from our own resources because I think the idea in terms of economy, I believe, is we need to reduce import and increase in export. So that should be the goal for our country to make sure our base economy is in a good hand. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the breakdown, Dr. Rifki. Okay, to spice things up in this room, and guys, please pay attention. So, after this, I'm going to ask YB about nuclear. So, Western countries has been exploring that option. Some are quite credible, some is quite good, a lot of green lights. How about Malaysia, YB? And how about you? Is nuclear an option for us in the future?
Thank you, Ruman. That is the interesting part of economy. We need to understand from all the contexts. And today we are talking about energy. I would say I was quite lucky because I spent 2 years at Petra, the previous ministry, really looking at water and energy. And last year, during the Energy Asia Forum, I think I was among the first, but definitely also under government leaders, when we talk about our approach towards net zero 2050, we also need to understand what it means for our energy sources. When we talk about renewable energy, that apart from being domestic, good, but then it's intermittent. Our solar can only produce during the day. You can probably extend the efficiency, the effectiveness by putting battery storage system. But then again, still it will not be enough to cover our base load. Base load, basically in the energy term, is how you can have the consistent supply. And usually we got from fossil. Two main fossil fuel for that would be gas and coal. We have given a commitment by 2044, no more coal power plant in Malaysia. So by the time we remove that from the system, can we continue to have reliable electricity supply without anything to replace our base load? So that's why when I was being asked the same question, I said bluntly that in terms of net zero, in terms of our NETA, we will not achieve that without nuclear in our component. Because without the nuclear energy, there is nothing substantive can replace the base load within our system. That was my position back then. Coming to Kementerian Ekonomi, definitely this is where government is working on pushing for nuclear energy into our system, but we need to cover various grounds. Definitely, usually when we talk about it, public acceptance, in terms of security, in terms of balance, in terms of all sort of requirements that we want, we must fulfill. That's why what we need to do, we need to really fulfill the obligations for the international standards. But the good thing in terms of the context at our region, there are also our neighboring countries are looking into that option as well. So my view, the acceptance must also be there for our region to come up with this nuclear energy as our option. But then again, when we talk about it, definitely there will be more questions need to be addressed. For example, nowadays when we talk about nuclear, there are also options like SMR, small modular reactors, or we go for conventional. Issue would be about the cost and whatnot, etc. So this is actually one area. I know last time we tried, but then it was being shelved. And then now we are pushing it again, and the target is clearer because this is actually linked up to our aspiration for net zero by 2050. And this is where opportunity which you guys probably will be the one who can actually really understand from the context of econ business on the nuclear side. So this is what I think another opportunity for the country, but definitely by the time we have more base load in our system, it will also jive to our aspiration to become the connector in the region. We are pushing for ASEAN Power Grid example, so in that sense, definitely Malaysia will have a clear potential in terms of clean energy for the future.
Okay, thank you so much, Roby. So in the final 5 minutes before we open up the floor to questions, since the Minister of the country says that, we shall do it. Okay. So, yeah. So guys, you guys can scan the QR code up there, and please send in your questions. in the meantime, whilst you guys are asking the questions, real quick, Krifty and also YB, both of you guys, if you guys were 22 years old today, yes, 22, how would you guys prepare yourself for the future? What are the skills that you guys are trying to look at? What are the industries, and how do you see the next 30 to 40 years if you guys were 22 today? So, first, Krifty.
If you ask that question to me today, I think it's going to be the same maybe back then. Actually, during my second year already, maybe it's a different case lah. I already set my target, what I'm going to be, what is the company that I want to join. So, Alhamdulillah, it's according to plan. Because you have your own passion, and when you have worked into some area or industry that you love, I think you can give all out. I think that is something you guys need to try. But I understand that it's not something that fortunate to everybody. And but I believe your passion is there, so try to divert into that.
If I'm 22 years old today, I think I will be in this room. In a sense that I think my love for econs is there. But at the same time, if you ask me, I mean, the gap between the generation is actually quite huge. Even I'm this year, I will be 40 years old. I feel much older than that. And in that sense, I think the current generations, what you are facing is even beyond my imagination. You are talking about generation when AI, when it's about all these information is out there. It's all about either you want how to process, what would be the best way and what not. Because even last time, it's all about the opportunities that we need to seek. But you guys, everything is in front of your eyes. It's just like how to choose the best option in life. And I can't tell. I mean, but my life, hopefully, I do not know. I do not want to imagine to be 22 years old again. It's very tiring life. Okay.
Okay. So we have quite a few questions here. Let's see the most upvoted questions. By the way, guys, make sure don't send questions that can get me to prison. Why hasn't Malaysia created nuclear power plants, despite nuclear energy having less of a carbon footprint compared to fossil fuel, and being able to sell the excess?
Number one, probably the cost, because in terms of the aspiration, we have research reactor at Bangi. If you guys are aware or not, there is a small nuclear reactor dekat Bangi. Jadi in that sense, in terms of preparing our talents, even back then, our leaders were talking about it. We wanted to explore the option in terms of nuclear. But number two, definitely when we talk about the cost, it's also about the options that were viable. Because back then, the thinking of energy is more towards affordability, and we have options. Coal, definitely cheaper, gas and whatnot. But now, when we talk about fossil fuels, it's not just about the cost, it's also about the sustainability and the issue of security, to secure the supply in terms of what will be the impact in the future. And especially now we have put the commitment. That's why to adopt such big idea for the country, we need to put that commitment strongly. We want to achieve net zero earliest by 2050. That will be the push factor that will drive us to that option. Even when we talk about nuclear, many challenges, especially the cost, I think, will be another issue to be debated as we move towards that. But hopefully, by then, the country is ready. After looking all the options that we have, it will be the most cost-effective for us to do nuclear. as much as what we talk about biodiesel today.
Okay, thank you, YB. Next, most upvoted question. I would like both analysts to answer, but first of all, Dr. Rifki first. What are your thoughts on the government putting a minimum price for imported cars, EVs, to 300k to reduce competition towards Dimas 5, Dimas 7? Yes, Dr. Rifki and also YB. No.
I think it's a bit complicated lah. I think the industry, automotive industry, actually for Malaysia is quite tricky. Not like 10 years before, 20 years before, because Malaysia started quite early of automotive industry, and suddenly by the time to go, suddenly automotive industry are already at the junction where we need to see how we want to push the automotive industry. For example, right now we already know that China 10 years back, or sorry, not 10 years, 20 years back, is totally different compared to automotive industry today. And about automotive industry, it's not just in terms of giving the public cars, it's also about the country survival. Part of it, because I always see that any nation that, this is my thought, I will always believe that any nation that has a very strong automotive industry, it will consider as a very strong nation in terms of advancement and so on. For example, previously China is not a very strong automotive country. The nation also, we can see, is not that big. And right now, when we see China is the global major player of automotive industry, they are also the global world power already. And when we see US automotive is going down, we can always see that the US nation is not that strong as previous. So it's also about how we want to play around with the automotive industry can really support the world, the public in a whole, not just for the car buyer, but also, the idea is that at the end, as I mentioned, we want to reduce the imports and increase the export. That should be the idea. I think I didn't have the data what the government have, the data that they decide the 300,000 and so on. But I believe the government looking at that issue. They need to make sure that the local are sustained, and they want to push Produk and Proton to start exporting more and more, not just for local consumption. If the government doesn't protect the local Proton and Produk, and how they're going to start to export. I believe we also hope that Proton and Produk take this opportunity, that the platform that government gives, to make sure that they can really excel and show that they really can do well. I think that's the critical part, not just the thing that government prepare. The industry to take this opportunity to excel. Then we can see that the benefit there. If not, it's a bit hard, a bit hard situation.
Adalah Dr. Rifki dah jelaskan tadi. The problem dekat Kementerian Ekonomi, I think this is also the challenge faced by the former minister. Okay, ini selalu overstep different ministries nanti. Comment on other people punya territory. I think definitely this is on meeting. But the criticism now, I think we need to address. Definitely we need to have clarity because this is what been asked by the industries. Because we are talking not just from the perspective of the stakeholders of the industry, but also the users. Definitely, I think Doctor has put the perspective from the industry itself, but at the same time, in terms of where we are now, when in the moment of crisis, we are talking about reducing the dependency on fossil fuel and whatnot. This is another component that government must bring clarify clearly what we are trying to achieve in the overall objective. But number two, definitely in terms of the benefit with a huge angle or directions that we choose, definitely we need to really put to that perspective so that the public would appreciate what the policy is trying to achieve. Definitely, because when we talk about the industry, it's ongoing issues being put to the context. But for me, as Kementerian Ekonomi, I do not want to pijak kaki orang because if not, I will get into trouble. But definitely, the issues must be brought to the cabinet to really get the view, not just from one view, but also the overall understanding. Because usually when we talk about economic policies, actually you guys must aware when I was at your age, the most idea that really fascinating me is about unintended consequences. This is where usually we talk about policies from one angle, but we forget the repercussion or the impact, the unintended repercussions that sometimes may eclipse other things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wagyu, thank you, Doctor. Next question is quite fun. How does the government plan to subsidize us beyond June? And let's say the subsidies go away, how is it going to look like? Macam mana nak go away sikit to make sure politically it's still viable?
Because if you look from the context, definitely when we achieve to that decision, it has to be collective. And usually we discuss the issue with MTEN, but such decision will be made up to cabinet for the approval. When we talk about the issue, definitely it's not like you can just switch on, switch off the light. It's like whatever we decide, it has to be managed carefully, smoothly, so that it will not create unintended impact. And at the moment, when we look in terms of our subsidy mechanism, as I said earlier, one of the components that we face difficulty the most will be about managing the leakages. And I think you guys also aware, like example for diesel usage in Sabah Sarawak, we just maintain the price to 15, but without any other limitation. So that is where the government will have to address first and come up with the solution so that we try to manage the issue of subsidy leakages with a proper system in place. I think last 2 days or yesterday, it was already being announced as KDS scheme will be expanded to Sabah and Sarawak. And number 2, definitely in terms of managing our diesel, now is being looked at the option, can we do the same like Budi 95 for diesel? So these are the issues being looked at. Before I say how long this is going to can we sustain, can we just pull the plug? But I think the government approach now, definitely we need to have enough resilience, try to prolong our strength even through our fiscal and whatnot. But at the same time, I don't think we just want to tarik smooth just like that, because that would create panic, that would create more uncertainty. But we need to be more prudent, we need to be more careful in managing our budget. So definitely I think next month, next 2 months, that will be clearer in terms of how to reduce that burden as we brace off this crisis, which we do not know when it's going to end.
Thank you, Eddie. Okay, this question is within your area of expertise, Doctor. So, green hydrogen, synthetic fuels, there is a lot of noise about what is after fossil fuels. Bila dinosaur punya tulang dah habis, bawah tanah, what are we going to do? So, if you have to bet on which technology actually disrupts transportation semua in Southeast Asia? What will it be in the next 15 to 20 years?
You asked me about the future of transportation, energy, fuel. For me, yeah, it's going to be a bit controversy for some people. For me, it's still EV. It's going to be EV. People are saying that, for example, 2050 is going to be hydrogen. For me, hydrogen and EV, of course, hydrogen seems to be a good sound because it just produces water rather than what we call exhaust, and also it doesn't bad as EV battery that you need to have a big sinkhole on the earth surface and so on. But for me, the issue, for example, between hybrid, between EV and hydrogen is that problem for EV is one, the battery. And recently we can say that battery already entered the second generation, which been announced by BYD, and maybe not that popular from CATL, which is both from China, which you can just charge the battery around less than 10 minutes, 5 minutes or so actually. So for hydrogen, the issue is not 1, 2 or 3, it's a lot. From the start, you want to get the hydrogen to the car. So it's a lot of issues that you need to solve. For me, maybe it's going to be like 2070 or something or more, which is not like battery. If the battery issue is already solved, maybe if we have the third generation of battery, I think it's no more, or it's a lot of waste of money and effort to put a bet on hydrogen. So we are waiting for the third generation, which is, I believe, it's only 5 or 10 years. Yes, that is my point of view. But again, there are a lot of vehicles, from bicycles to the ship. So if all are battery, of course, it's not viable. I believe if you compare the fossil fuel, I think the most popular one is petrol and diesel. If battery are there, petrol will be gone. This is my point of view. But diesel is still going to be there. For example, the ship. I believe, yes, you can have like a container, super large ship into battery, yes, but it's not something that is economical. Diesel should be always there for like at least for the big ship and some of the big vehicles. Yeah, that's my point of view.
Okay, thank you so much. So the timekeeper says this is the last question. We'll end it on a light note. So YB, if you were a color right now, what color would you be? Yes. You will explain to me what lah. If you were a color, what color would you be and why? Red, orange, blue, yellow. How was your week? How was your last 2 weeks? It's okay, take your time.
Because I'm wearing blue color. Is it blue or not?
Okay, on that note, since it's blue, everyone vote for PKR and terima kasih banyak-banyak. So, terima kasih banyak-banyak everyone.
Blue banyak option.
Oh, betul. I won't say the other option because I want to keep my job. So, everyone, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for the questions. Terima kasih banyak to the faculty, to the university. Thank you so much to the panelists. With that being said, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you once again to our panel, and we would like to give our sincere thanks to our honourable VIPs for giving their meaningful insights.
We would like to invite Professor Dr. Yusniza binti Kamaruzaman, the Dean of Faculty of Business and Economics at Universiti Malaya, to present the token of appreciation to each of our panelists and moderator.
Firstly, we would like to give our token of appreciation to Dr. Rifki Irizwan Abdul Jalal, the Associate Professor at Taylor's University.
Next, we are honored to present this token of appreciation to Yang Berhormat Akmal Nasir, the Minister of Economic Affairs of Malaysia. And lastly, we would like to give our sincere thanks and token of appreciation to our moderator, Mr. Lukman Hakim, Year 3 UN Economics student and Bank Negara Scholar.
May I invite all VIPs to come forward for a quick group photo? Smile on the count of 3, 2, 1.
Once again, thank you to our esteemed VIPs for being here with us today.
We kindly request the panelists and